South African Law Reform Commission has proposed the regulation of legal fees to improve the public's access to justice. The Commission handed over a number of reports to Justice Minister Ronald Lamola. They include reports on child pornography and on the practice of ukuthwala. That's in which a young girl is kidnapped to make her a bride. Let's talk some more about these reports now with the Commission Chair, Justice Jody Collipin, who joins us live from Pretoria. Justice Collipin, thanks for your time this evening, and I'm really looking forward to your insight, because a lot of these kinds of reports, when it is made public, can really go over the heads of us mere plebs. If we start off by just looking at the reports in an overarching way, it's Project 107, a report on sexual offences. Then Project 142, the investigation into legal fees, Project 138, the practice of ukuthwala, and then Project 125, harmonization of existing laws providing for different periods of prescription. Now, that might seem like reports on very varied topics, but really the golden thread there is about access to justice, isn't it?
Well, yes, in part it's about access to justice, and the report on legal fees speaks substantially to that. The report on prescription as well. Ukuthwala deals with really the vulnerability of the girl child and of women who may be forced into marriage through a distorted form of the practice of ukuthwala, which is the forced taking of a bride. And the report on pornography and children really speaks to the vulnerability of children in a modern technological society in their exposure to pornography or to what is called child sexual abuse material, when that material is produced in relation to children. So they all fit into the thread really of our constitution, and we could speak about all of them, but the report on access to justice maybe goes to the heart of what the society is about.
And that's the point
that in our society.
And that's the point that you made in the handover to the minister. The fact that legal representation really is a right to ordinary South Africans, but the current circumstances make it so that the cost of justice is just out of the reach of so many South Africans. Tell us why your organization felt the need that it was time to address this issue right now, and how you went about it.
Good. There are two reasons for doing that. The one is, as you eloquently point out, we have a wonderful constitution, and we pride ourselves on the constitution, and we say to people we live in a rules-based society. So we urge them to resolve their disputes through the law. But we also live in the most unequal society in the world. And so when someone has a dispute, but they don't have the means or the resources to engage legal services, and others do, then it perpetuates that inequality. And so the promise of the Constitution becomes hollow. If someone loses their house but was not able to actually get a lawyer to go to court to present their case, that is not consistent with the values in our Constitution. And so this investigation was mandated, as it were, by the provisions of the Legal Practice Act, which regulates the legal profession, and the Law Commission was required to do this investigation. It wasn't an easy investigation. It took us a while, about 2 years, and we consulted quite broadly with the legal profession, with advocates, attorneys, with users of legal fees, with members of the community, just in terms of their own perceptions of the law, with the paralegal movement, with legal academics. And we came up with a report which we hope can take us forward. It has recommendations in a number of areas, and it speaks to, number one, how do we broaden access to justice? And I think there's much that the legal profession can do through pro bono work, and that's work without charge. And already there's positive things that's being done. But an important recommendation is that perhaps law students should undertake mandatory community service in terms of providing legal services to indigent people. We should support paralegals, and these are not fully fledged lawyers, but very often when someone has a legal problem, they don't need a lawyer. They need a paralegal who can just assist them and guide them in the right direction and unblock a bureaucratic blockage. We also then importantly look at the cost of legal services. And that's a contentious area, because one recognizes that the legal profession needs to survive and they need to be sustainable. But at the same time, if the majority of our people cannot afford legal services, then I think we all have a collective responsibility to make that happen, because if that fails, then our constitution fails. And we're looking at dealing with the cost of legal services in respect of users who are really in the lowest categories of income in our society. At the top end of the scale, it doesn't really matter. If someone can afford to pay large fees to a lawyer, then so be it, or if a court, but our concern is with people in the middle and lower income categories. And we're saying that there should be an intervention that at least puts a ceiling on legal fees that would ensure greater access. And we hope that the legal profession receives this report in the spirit in which it is presented. It's not ignoring their interests, but it's saying to them that collectively we all have to do something to make justice attainable for our people, because if it's not, then we've all failed. And finally, Marcel, we make some recommendations towards the greater efficiency of our legal system. For example, how can we use mediation instead of adversarial litigation where there's a winner and a loser? Many disputes can be resolved through mediation. It's speedy, it's cost-effective, and it results in a win-win situation. We think that our court processes can be streamlined so that they're not delays in court with push-up costs, and matters can come in and out of the system with reasonable efficiency. So it's a very long report, and in the short time that we have, I hope I've captured the main sort of features of that report. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Justice Colpin, what did your investigation found was driving the rising cost of legal representation? Because, if people might be watching this, ordinary people might be watching this and saying, we've got the Competition Commission that looks at collusion when it comes to the price of bread. Should we not be handing out fines, perhaps, to lawyers or legal firms that are perhaps working together to push that cost up? What did your investigation find?
Well, look, I don't think we found any evidence of price fixing. What we found is that legal fees are unattainable for the large majority of people. It's just beyond their reach. And there are a number of reasons for this. I think our legal processes are quite complex. I think, secondly, too few people know about the law. And I'm not saying that everybody must become their own lawyer, but I think if we undertook more public education in what the law is about and how you can assert your rights, then it demystifies the law and creates a lower level of reliance on a legal professional. But importantly, the cost of legal services has consistently come up. And many people would say to you that they would simply abandon going to court and giving up their quest for justice because the cost is too high and the risk of losing a case would be devastating. And that can't be right. That simply is unacceptable. And it's with that in mind that the report has made the kind of recommendations that it has. It's not a sort of silver bullet that's going to solve all the problems. But if it broadens access to justice for a substantial number of people and creates alternative mechanisms by which disputes can be resolved, and if it can create greater efficiency at the level of the courts, then we would have done okay. Yeah.
Just before I let you go, Justice, what happens next with these reports that you've handed over to the Minister? You've made some very serious recommendations, especially in the one when it comes to legal fees and suggesting that students perhaps do community service and that kind of thing. Those will have a wide-ranging impact on the legal field. What happens next with these recommendations?
Okay, just on that, one hopes that students embrace it, because I think it's wonderful for students to be steeped into doing community work. It's a wonderful sort of introduction to law. But to respond to your question, the Minister received the reports yesterday from me in my capacity as the chair of the Commission. The Minister accepted that the reports raise serious issues and require serious consideration. The Minister has made a commitment to give effect to, or to take the reports on board, and what practically that means is the Minister must decide whether, as head of the executive responsible for justice, the recommendations then can be taken forward through legislation, and we've presented draft legislation. The Minister would obviously want to consult with other government departments, with other stakeholders, But we're confident that the minister has expressed the sufficient level of seriousness to engage with the reports and to take it forward. And we hope that this important piece of work by the Law Reform Commission results in something tangible at the end of the day. But beyond that, it's in the hands of government and I suppose in the hands of the society as a whole.
Indeed. Thank you so much for that. That was the South African Law Reform Commission chairperson, Justice Jody Collipin, joining us virtually there from Pretoria. We thank him for his time this evening and his insights. Some fascinating work that him and his team have been able to do there.